What's up, YouTube? It's Julius back with another video for y'all. Basically, this one is going to be in the similar light, talking about mental health issues because, I think that's important. But more specifically, this video really, I just wanted to explain why mental health and mental illness awareness has become such a big issue for me, and why I think that it's important to talk about openly and discuss, and why I believe it's important to raise awareness. Not just to raise awareness, but help break down barriers and stigma. Mental health is something that I have struggled with for years. I think the first time, actually it wasn't even my first experience with, I think, as I mentioned in another video, was in 7th or 8th grade. Is when I started feeling what you would call it with mental health, or a mental illness, with depression. I didn't know I was depressed. I was kind of told it at first, or I guess that was how I was feeling. I didn't really know what depression was. I just knew I was kind of out of it, and everything seemed dry and boring, and I wasn't feeling it. Mental illness is something that we think of that not many people have, or at least that's how I used to think about it. And it turns out a lot of people do have mental illnesses. A lot of people do have mental disabilities. I think a lot of times it's also conceptualized that if you have a mental illness, you're crazy, or it's apparent, or if I think of somebody who's depressed, I think of somebody I can literally think about instances of myself and be this period of me. When you think of somebody who's depressed, you think about everything's gross in their house. They don't leave their house. They don't do anything. They're in their room. They're listening to sad music. They hurt themselves. They're alcoholics. You picture this just dire situation of blackness. And sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's person is super happy and well, obviously not inside, but appears to be happy. And still hanging out with people, just going to work, doing everything normally, and you have no idea what they struggle with. And I feel that's a lot of the time, it's a lot of the case, at least that's how I feel most of the time. Just because I'm not breaking down does not mean I'm 100% fine. I think it's important for us to realize how common mental illness and mental disorders in our lives can be, and how it impacts others. For me personally, it has defined my life, in that basically it's kind of defined my life, not defined me. I'd say defined, where I've ended up, what I've done, specifically just because things I can do at certain times, being able to work, or taking off of work, taking off of school, or doing these programs, or not being able to do everything I want necessarily, because I have these blockages, anxiety, all that stuff. So yeah, it sort of has changed and dictated what I can do and what I can't do, and I've set that for myself. If it's just too much. Last summer, I was supposed to do the summer management program at Wake, which is this business boot camp, basically a summer intensive business program, which would have been really great for my resume, but I didn't do it because it was too much. I couldn't handle it. But it would have been great, and would have had a better probably job offer now. I don't know. There's 1,000 different possibilities you can think about, but that's one thing you have to do, is just not think about those possibilities. I'm rambling now. Anyway, as I was saying, it's just that it impacts everyone differently. But there are times when I'm fuck this, can't do it. But yeah, it's more so important in the fact that a lot of times mental disabilities, the end result is suicide, which, someone killing themselves. And sometimes not even in terms of drug addiction. If you count drug addiction as a mental illness, then, drug overdoses can also be counted as suicide, which brings the suicide numbers way, 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 way up. Because 90% of people who do kill themselves sort of show signs, or have showed signs that people may not have identified with originally, of having a mental illness, but only 54% of them are not diagnosed. So that means that there's a great deal of people who are dying by suicide, who don't know they have a mental disorder, or if they do, they're not seeking help, or they haven't been diagnosed, or there's a gap between the end, let's just take cancer for example. Cancer, I'm really bad at science, so I don't really know how cancer works. The cancerous cells attack some other cells in your body, right? And the first thing you do, not the first thing, I don't know, there's different solutions like chemo, this, that, and this. Smoking, we know smoking goes to like lung cancer, being out in the sun without sunscreen causes this. But for some reason with mental illnesses, like we know that like these things are problems. These things, like this is what causes these things, but we don't really try to like solve it, if that makes sense. So the second leading cause of death in my generation, like people my age, is suicide. And yet, as I just said, a lot of them have mental illnesses and a lot of them aren't diagnosed, haven't been treated, might not even know they do. So like why, this whole issue, just like, that's why I guess I'm super passionate about it, and that I want people to see mental illness as any other disability, any other illness, not even as a disability. It's not because, I have certain things going on in my life or I have like certain brain chemistry. There's nothing different about, me, or like besides like I have like panic attacks and like, I have all these other problems. But like in terms of what I can do, there's nothing different. And in terms of how I should be viewed, there's nothing different. So if I have a panic attack, I should be able to, take a few times, like take a break. But like if you went to work and you told your boss like, sorry, can't come in today, had like a crazy panic attack before like, coming into work today, going whatever, something like that, they look at you like, fuck a panic attack, you better get to work, like what? And like that's a bad example because like even if like you do have like they're both serious medical conditions. Like, there we go. It's in your mind, the idea that like I was getting ready to say, even if you do have a serious medical condition like cancer, the idea that I have to say that is like, what's wrong with it? I want to talk about it so it becomes more accepted, and the fact that, it's seen as a medical issue that needs to be addressed medically, and that, people shouldn't be afraid to talk about. If like you're not working right now and like people are asking like, hey, like why aren't you working, and you're saying like, hey, I'm like going through some things and I'm depressed, I've been depressed for the past like 3 months and I'm on medication and then I'm going to therapy to better myself so I can go back to work, people shouldn't be afraid to say that. Like, yes, that's not something that rolls off the tongue to like someone at a coffee shop, but like to your friends, to your neighbors, maybe like even like, yeah, like it should be a casual conversation in the sense that like anything else. Like, I'm taking time off because I'm sick. I was saying though, but like in a nutshell, that's why I'm doing all of this. I just want people to see and understand as much as possible what it like is like to live with a mental disorder, and that it's not all just this made up mumbo jumbo that's like not real, and that like it's like fine, we don't need to talk about it, it's not like a real health, like all these things that are like associated with that, like these things are real problems, they like affect real people. I keep on focusing on panic attacks because like there's a spectrum, like there's tons of different things people can wrestle with. I just focus on panic attacks because panic attacks seem to get in the way of my life a lot. If you're at a party and all of a sudden you have a panic attack, it's like, well, I have to leave, now I'm the buzzkill, and it's like that weird explanation, like, I'm having a panic attack now, guys. So it's like that stuff. So I just wanted to be more accepted to the point where, people won't, look at you crazy or have assumptions. And more so for people who are dealing with this stuff, they're not afraid to reach out to resources and talk about their experiences and just everything. Like, I'm terrified of like talking about this all the time because I'm afraid of how people will see me. I'm afraid about how employers will see me. I'm afraid about how schools will see me. Like, I don't know who's watching this video, but at the same time, I know that there's somebody who's struggling with the same issues that I have, and there's nothing wrong with the issues I have, and they might not have the same amount of resources that I have, and I could help them in some way, hopefully. I hope I'm helping. I don't know. Yeah. So I'm gonna stop rambling now. Peace.